The moment is electric. You can feel it the second you step into the heart of Houston, Texas. Thousands of people, voices raised, hearts pounding with anticipation. And at that moment, it becomes clear this isn't just another political gathering. This is a call to action, a declaration that the people will not be silenced. Our speaker takes the stage, greeted by a roar that shakes the streets. "Wow! Houston," she begins, almost laughing at the sheer intensity of the welcome. The energy is overwhelming, the crowd nearly vibrating with anticipation. "I'm so excited to be back home," she says, and it's more than words, it's a feeling. A mixture of relief, determination, and resolve. She reflects on the journey that brought her here. Campaign trails stretching across states, long nights, tireless dedication. From Pennsylvania to California, from rallies to block walks, every step taken was a step in the name of justice and democracy. And now, back in Texas, she isn't just bringing her presence. She's bringing a message that leadership is not just about titles. It's about showing up, standing up, and answering the call of the people. "And I'm excited to be home," she repeats, her voice rising with conviction. "And to be home with real leadership." The statement carries weight, a subtle critique woven into the energy of the moment. It's clear who she is contrasting herself with, who she sees as absent when presence and action were required. Leadership is not a phone call. Leadership is not performing only when convenient. True leadership is showing up for the people consistently and courageously. The atmosphere is electric, filled with chants, applause, and the unspoken agreement of tens of thousands. We are here, and we will not back down. And in this energy, she draws from her roots. The child of a preacher, she knows how to stir hearts not with fear, but with song, not with threats, but with hope. And so she invokes a gospel refrain that resonates deeper with the audience. "I don't feel no ways tired." These words are more than music. They are a declaration of endurance, a reminder that the fight for justice and representation is neither easy nor short. We've come too far from where we started. She reminds everyone. Nobody told us the road would be easy, but we believe we are not left behind. This is a message that stretches beyond the rally, beyond Houston. It is a reminder to the nation that action, persistence, and unity are the forces that shape democracy. The rally is not just celebration. It is a call to sustain energy, to carry this fire forward. "Y'all are not going to be allowed to feel tired," she tells the crowd. "We got work to do." The work is not abstract. It is about representation, about voting, about restoring decency, dignity, and democracy itself. The path forward may be daunting, but it is one they will not walk alone. Every hand raised, every voice chanting, is part of this collective effort. She reflects on victories past and the moments that inspired courage. November 4th, historic wins in Georgia and Mississippi, and the relentless energy of voters across the country. These are not mere statistics. They are proof that when people rise together, they can shape the course of history. And Houston is now part of that story. Texas, with its vast landscapes and diverse population, is a battleground, but it is also a home where courage thrives. The crowd feels it. They are witnessing a moment that transcends political affiliation. It is about hope, action, and the enduring spirit of citizenship. And at the center of it all is the speaker, standing not as a politician, but as a guide, a motivator, and a witness to the resilience of the people. In this segment, the energy has been set, the stakes have been established. Leadership, accountability, and courage are not abstract concepts. They are lived experiences, felt in every cheer, every clap, and every step toward justice. The rally is not the end. It is the spark. And as the sun sets over Houston, one thing is clear. The people are awake, aware, and ready to act. This is only the beginning. As the rally continues, the focus sharpens. This is more than energy. It is clarity, and clarity is born from struggle. She speaks not just a crowd before her, but to every citizen who has ever felt powerless in the face of political gamesmanship. The backdrop is Houston, but the story stretches across the nation, from Sacramento to Austin, from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. She recalls the road traveled, the battles fought, and the leadership that failed to show up when it mattered most. The criticism is clear, yet measured. When citizens called for help, the call went unanswered. When leadership was required, some chose convenience over courage. The message resonates with every Texan who has waited in vain, whose hopes were sidelined, whose voices were ignored. And what do we see, she asks? A governor more loyal to power than people, more interested in optics than in justice. The audience responds with chants and applause. She does not need to name names. Her words carry weight, but she does. The audience knows exactly who she means. Greg Abbott, a figure of authority, becomes a symbol of absence, a reminder that power can be wielded to stall, to delay, to silence. And then she turns to a larger narrative, the manipulation of power at the highest level. Donald Trump, she declares, voice steady but firm, sent forces to intimidate, to chill the will of the people, even before a single vote was cast. The crowd listens in stunned silence, the weight of the claim hanging in the air. ICE units, Border Patrol tactical teams, a show of strength masquerading as authority, all designed to instill fear. Yet, the people did not falter. They showed up in droves, lined up for hours, proving that democracy is not a show but practice, and a powerful one at that. The speaker then draws a stark contrast. Leadership is not about fear, she says. Leadership is not about spectacle or coercion. Leadership is about presence, about accountability, about standing for what is right even when it is inconvenient. And in this story, leadership appears not only where it was expected, but where it was needed the most. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, emerges as a counterpoint. Someone who could have remained in comfort, secure in a blue state, but chose action instead. He understood that democracy is indivisible, that the fight in Texas is the fight for every citizen across the country. Her narrative is intentional. Every anecdote, every mention of a specific event, is chosen to show a pattern. Systems of power can attempt to suppress, intimidate, or delay, but the people, united and persistent, can resist. She recalls traveling the nation, supporting causes like Proposition 50 in California, advocating for judges in Pennsylvania, assisting candidates in Virginia. Each act a thread in a larger tapestry of resistance, a demonstration that civic engagement knows no borders, no state lines, no easy shortcuts. And yet, she does not shy away from the reality. These battles are difficult. They are exhausting. They test the endurance of volunteers, organizers, and voters alike. But her message is clear. We don't get to rest because justice waits for no one. She draws from scripture, from song, from the raw energy of lived experience, emphasizing that perseverance is not optional. It is essential. The political stakes are unmistakable. Every unfilled seat, every postponed election, every show of force intended to intimidate citizens represents a threat to the principles of democracy. But as she speaks, it becomes evident that the threat is not the end. It is a catalyst. It ignites energy, galvanizes action, and strengthens the commitment of those who understand that representation is not a privilege. It is a right. Through her words, the crowd sees the arc of the story. The opposition is real, but so is the power of people. Those who try to manipulate, delay, or intimidate underestimate the resolve of citizens willing to stand up for the truth. The rally is not just about a moment in time. It is about building a movement that refuses to be silenced, that refuses to accept complacency, and that recognizes leadership as service, not spectacle. By the end of the segment, the audience is no longer merely observing. They are participants in a shared vision. The narrative of power, suppression, and resistance has been drawn clearly. The people have the tools, the courage, and the voice to demand accountability. The energy is not a fleeting spark. It is a steady flame of democracy being exercised in real time. And as the camera pans across the crowd, from Houston streets to the state capitol and beyond, the message is undeniable. When leadership fails, the people rise. When intimidation occurs, courage persists. When democracy is threatened, citizens respond. This is the fight, the story, the lesson, and it is only beginning. The fight for democracy isn't won in a single speech. It isn't achieved through headlines alone. It is fought on the ground, one block at a time, one conversation at a time, one voter at a time. And this is precisely what our speaker has spent months, even years, building. Every rally, Every trip across the country, every interaction with citizens has a purpose: to remind people that their voices matter and that action counts. "Let's talk about where we came from," she begins, her tone shifting the focus on victories hard-earned. She recalls the Prop 50 campaign in California, a fight not only about policies, but about the very principle of fair governance. It was a test of collective effort, where volunteers, organizers, and ordinary citizens came together to ensure that justice and equity were not sidelined. She shares the behind-the-scenes effort. Early mornings, late nights, block walks through neighborhoods, phone calls that never seemed to end. Each action was a stitch in a larger tapestry of democratic resilience. And it worked. Prop 50 passed, a testament not just to political machinery, but to the human spirit and the will of engaged citizens. This victory is symbolic. It demonstrates that change is possible when people refuse to stay silent. California, often viewed as distant from the battlegrounds of Texas or Pennsylvania, became a beacon, a reminder that when communities unite, results follow. But the story does not stop at state lines. She recounts traveling to Pennsylvania to ensure judges retain their positions, recognizing that the judiciary is not immune to the influence of partisan tactics. She went to Virginia to support Abigail Spanberger, understanding that the power of one vote and one voice can ripple through history. Each trip, each campaign, each rally is a thread in a nationwide movement, connecting citizens across the country in a shared purpose: defending democracy against forces that would see it weakened or delayed. Grassroots action, she emphasizes, is more than policy advocacy. It is a lifeblood of a functioning democracy. Volunteers in Texas knocking on doors, organizers in California coordinating efforts for Prop 50, and voters lining up in Georgia, Mississippi, and Pennsylvania. Each played a vital role. These efforts are concrete proof that when citizens engage, the system responds, often in surprising and decisive ways. She draws attention to the energy of the people in the audience. "The work doesn't stop with me," she says. "It stops with you. Each of you carries this torch forward. And that energy is contagious. It spreads from state to state, city to city, street to street. When citizens see action, they are inspired to act themselves. This is democracy in motion, not as an abstract concept, but as a living, breathing force powered by collective determination." But she is candid about the obstacles. There are those who attempt to suppress, intimidate, or delay progress. From federal forces sent to intimidate voters to governors' slow-walking representation, from court challenges to bureaucratic delays, every victory comes at the expense of immense effort and vigilance. Yet each challenge strengthens the resolve of the people. Resistance is not passive. It is active, coordinated, and persistent. Her speech highlights a critical lesson. Leadership is not defined by power alone, but by the willingness to fight alongside citizens, to organize, to protect rights, and to act decisively in moments of uncertainty. While some leaders falter, the true measure of progress is the engagement of the people themselves. This is a recurring theme in her narrative. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It demands participation, courage, and endurance. The victories, from Prop 50 to historic wins in Georgia and Mississippi, are not just political wins. They are symbols of what is possible when citizens refuse to back down. They remind everyone that even in the face of intimidation, manipulation, or delay, collective action can turn the tide. Every successful ballot, every retained judge, every elected official is a testament to human resilience and the power of organized, persistent effort. Her storytelling is deliberate, weaving together specific instances of triumph with broader themes of justice, equity, and citizen power. Each victory underscores a central idea. Democracy is not something given. It is something fought for and protected. And as she addresses a crowd, she makes it clear. These victories belong to everyone in the room, to every volunteer, to every citizen who took the time to stand up, speak out, and participate. The segment closes with a call to continued action. Prop 50 is a victory, but it is not the end. Pennsylvania, Virginia, Texas, every state, every district, every ballot matters. The fight is ongoing, and the people are the agents of change. "Joy comes in the morning," she reminds the audience, invoking a sense of hope and forward momentum. But joy is not passive. It is earned through action, persistence, and unwavering commitment to the principles of democracy. By the end of this segment, The audience is left inspired, motivated, and aware of the stakes. Grassroots activism is no longer an abstract concept. It is a force, a weapon, and a beacon of hope for democracy. And the message is clear. When people act together, there is no obstacle too great, no leader too distant, no intimidation strong enough to prevent the will of the people from being heard. The battle for democracy is never without its shadows. It is in these moments, when intimidation and power are used to silence voices, that courage becomes visible. Our speaker does not shy away from highlighting this reality. She tells the crowd, her voice steady but fierce, that democracy is under attack, not from ideas, but from tactics designed to suppress participation, to delay representation, and to bend the system to the will of a few. Donald Trump, she says plainly, has shown the country what weakness looks like masquerading as strength. The deployment of IC, the Border Patrol tactical units, the attempts to intimidate voters, all of it is a display of fear, not power. The message is clear. They would prefer a compliant population, a citizenry that doubts its own agency. But the people did not bend. They lined up for hours, defying threats, proving that the will to be heard is stronger than attempts to silence it. And yet, intimidation comes in many forms. Governor Greg Abbott, she explains, uses the tools of authority to slow-walk elections, to delay the swearing-in of representatives, to create bureaucratic obstacles that keep citizens without a voice. Every delay, every postponed ballot, every administrative maneuver is an affront to principle that elected officials serve the people, not the other way around. But the response is not despair, it is determination. The audience sees a pattern. The more they try to suppress, the more resolute the citizens become. The story of Texas becomes emblematic. The people are left waiting, sometimes months, for representation, for constituent services, for someone to speak on their behalf. And yet, in the face of these delays, ordinary citizens step forward, volunteers organize block walks, and advocates travel across state lines to ensure that justice is not deferred indefinitely. This is not just politics. It is active citizenship, the embodiment of democracy in action. She recounts specific moments that illustrate both the danger and the resilience. The presence of mass federal units in California, sent to intimidate voters at polling sites, could have been a deterrent, yet citizens persisted. Lines stretched for hours. Ballots were cast despite fear tactics. And every successful vote cast was a triumph over intimidation. The lesson is unmistakable. Democracy is not a game of force. It is a practice of courage, persistence, and collective action. The speech also touches on the broader cultural battle being waged. From voting rights to civil rights, women's rights to LGBTQ protections, every policy and every legal maneuver is part of a larger fight for equity and justice. Those who attempt to roll back progress rely on fear, confusion, and bureaucratic power. But here, on the stage in Houston, the response is unity, education, and empowerment. The people are reminded that their engagement matters and that their participation is the antidote to oppression. Leadership, she emphasizes, is not merely symbolic. It is active, present, and accountable. While some leaders falter, others rise to the occasion. Gavin Newsom, for instance, could have remained within the comfort of California's secure political landscape. Instead, he acted, mobilizing volunteers, supporting campaigns, and demonstrating that democracy requires intervention, not indifference. It is a lesson that transcends state lines. When leaders step up, they inspire citizens to act. When citizens act, they force accountability. The narrative of intimidation is paired with the narrative of triumph. November 4th, historic wins in Georgia and Mississippi, the preservation of judges in Pennsylvania, victories in Virginia. These moments are not isolated. They are connected, part of a national movement to assert citizen power against forces seeking delay, manipulation, and suppression. Every victory demonstrates that tactics of fear cannot extinguish the flame of civic engagement. The crowd, fully engaged, feels the weight of these words. The imagery is vivid. Mass federal units, delayed elections, and political leaders ignoring the calls of the people. Yet amid these challenges, hope thrives. We are not powerless, the speaker declares. We have agency. We can shape the future here in Texas, across the South, and throughout the United States of America. The message is clear. Democracy is not handed down. It is claimed, defended, and exercised. She reminds the audience that every individual matters. The power of one vote, one phone call, one conversation, one act of advocacy is amplified when joined with thousands of others. And in this amplification, the tools of intimidation lose their potency. Fear cannot stand against determination. Delay cannot prevail against organized action. This is not rhetoric. It is reality, witnessed by thousands in the room and millions across the nation. The segment closes with a challenge. The fight is ongoing. Every delay, every intimidation tactic, every challenge to democracy is an opportunity for citizens to respond with courage, unity, and persistence. This is the essence of civic responsibility. To act not only for oneself but for the collective good. To rise in the face of fear and to assert the enduring principles of democracy. The camera pans across the crowd, capturing the faces of determined citizens, volunteers, and organizers. They are the living proof that intimidation, no matter how calculated, cannot extinguish the power of engaged people. This is democracy in motion, resilient and unwavering, a force that cannot be silenced. The struggle has been long. The obstacles have been many. But now, we stand in a moment of awakening, a moment where America is no longer asleep to the dangers at its doorstep, nor blind to the power in its hands. The room vibrates with purpose as the speaker takes a breath, no longer addressing the crowd. She is speaking to history. We've come too far to turn back now, she says, reminding everyone of the song that began this journey. I don't feel no ways tired. This is not simply a melody. It is a mission, a declaration that this movement, this fight, is not fueled by comfort, but by conviction. Because democracy does not survive on hope alone. It survives on action. She looks across the room, filled with people who showed up not out of convenience, but out of duty. There is no more important race in our lifetimes, she declares, than taking back the House of Representatives next November. This is the moment everything has been building toward. The stakes have never been clearer. The future of democracy is not theoretical. It is on the ballot. The crowd knows this. They feel it in their bones. Because democracy is not just a system. It is a promise that every citizen counts, that every voice matters, that power begins not in palaces, but among the people who step up, show up, and speak up. The speaker reminds them, the most important office in a democracy is not governor, not senator, not president. It is the office of the citizen. Citizenship is not a title. It is a responsibility, a duty that demands participation, courage, and clarity. And the people of Texas have shown the nation what true citizenship looks like. They did not wait for hope. They created it. They did not wait for a savior. They became catalysts for change. This movement is not about one state. It is about all of us, about the single mother in Georgia who stood in line for 6 hours so her vote would count, about the students in Pennsylvania who organized dorm-to-dorm registration drives, about the seniors in Mississippi who marched to the polls the same way they marched for civil rights generations ago. Every act of courage has carried us here. And then she pauses, not for effect, but for truth. This is our moment to restore what was broken, to rebuild what was damaged, to strengthen what was weakened, to reclaim what was stolen. This is not about left or right. This is about right and wrong. This is about the soul of our nation. The crowd rises, as if pulled upward by the gravity of her words. She speaks of dignity, of bringing back respectability to leadership, decency to public service, truth to governance, of restoring America not to what it was, but to what it should be, a nation that welcomes, protects, uplifts, and listens, a nation that honors differences instead of weaponizing them, a nation that sees diversity not as a threat, but as a superpower. And hear me when I say this, she continues. The future is not something we wait for. It is something we manifest. Each word lands heavy, purposeful, because this is a shift. This is where the speech transforms into a movement. The future will not be written by those who stay silent. It will be written by those who choose action, those who choose courage over fear, those who choose community over division, those who choose democracy over dictatorship. She reminds the crowd, America is approaching its 250th anniversary. 250 years of a radical idea that the people govern themselves, that liberty belongs not to the few, but to all. And now, this generation must prove worthy of that legacy. This is our time to stand up, she urges. Stand up for the bullied. Stand up for the silenced. Stand up for the forgotten and the fearful. Stand up for those who gave up until they see reason to hope again. Stand up for the Constitution. Stand up for the rule of law. Stand up for checks and balances. Stand up for democracy itself. The audience is no longer just listening. They are transformed, activated. Their faces reflect not excitement, but purpose. This movement, she concludes, does not end tonight. It begins tonight. This is not a rally. It is a torch-passing ceremony. The stage lights soften as she extends her hand toward the people, not as a leader above them, but as a partner among them. You are the hope. You are the future. You are the protectors of democracy. And together, we will win this. The music rises. Hands lift. Voices unite. The chant grows. We will not go back. We will not go back. Because the story of democracy has a new chapter, and it begins with them. Fade out on a final image. Children holding candles, adults standing behind them with linked arms, a banner across the frame. The future is ours to build together.